And joining us to go through the papers, it's broadcaster Harry Symeou. How you doing, Harry?
Harry.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're
good.
all right. Thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning to run us through some of the key stories in the papers today.
Is he an happy gunner yet?
Well, yes. It's not been an easy few weeks for you as an Arsenal fan. And Mikel Arteta has been talking in the papers, hasn't he, Harry, about the title race?
Yeah, you're right to say it's been a tricky few weeks from an Arsenal perspective. But Mikel Arteta seems to be still quite buoyant, actually, about Arsenal's title chances. He was speaking to the media ahead of the game at Stamford Bridge tomorrow, and he discussed the title chances of the Gunners. And he said, no one will run away with the title. That's the line that Gary Jacob in the Times has led with. And in the Sun, they've gone with Arteta's a big title tip, because he believes that this is a title race that will go down to the wire, that will have plenty of twists and turns, and that despite Arsenal's difficult run of form at the moment, they're not out of it. I think this is a bit of Mikel Arteta trying to light a fire under his team, if I'm being honest. He'll know, looking at the position that they're in at the minute, that it's going to be quite the task to try and pull that gap back. Having said that, he also referenced in the same press conference the fact that Arsenal have had some really, really difficult away games at the start of this season. And they've had a run, the likes of which none of their title rivals have had just yet. So as a former player, Cass, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, because can you remember many examples of managers sort of saying things that maybe they don't 100% believe at the moment, but are trying to galvanise their team and are trying to light a fire under the players?
Well, there is a line that you use to the media that might be exactly the same as in the dressing room, to be honest with you. It's a tough one, because from the outside, you know, they've sort of got away with one, and other clubs around that City have lost games as well, because that helps their cause. If City had been under their normal circumstances, they'd probably have got 5 points or something, 6 points out of the last 3 or 4 games, or a bit more than they have, you know, and that's give everybody a bit of leeway. Liverpool are still driving away and keeping this incredible run going. And I think he's clutching at straws slightly, because if you ask me the big difference, and I just talked about with Natalie, between Chelsea and Arsenal, the forward line at Arsenal is not a title-winning forward line. I'm sorry, Harry, but there is no way on earth I think that forward line has enough to win a title.
It's not a crazy point to make, Cass. Even as an Arsenal man, I wouldn't really argue against that. I think that there's been some inconsistency shown, especially by Gabriel Martinelli in that final third. He's the one that I think people are looking at and thinking, is it time for an upgrade in that area? He gives you so much work rate and so much effort. And in the games where Arsenal have been down to 10 men and away at Spurs and away at Manchester City, he made really, really vital contributions on that side of things. But his decision-making in the final third hasn't quite been right. And I think that's why people are growing a little bit frustrated with him. I mean, Natalie, from Mikel Arteta's point of view, you'd rather it was Liverpool that are pulling away at this stage, wouldn't you, than Manchester City, given their history?
Yeah, but I know what you're saying, but there's also the thing of Man City always seem to come good in the second part of the season, or certainly towards the last sort of quarter of the season, and that's the fear that as much as they obviously have lost for the first time at Bournemouth last time around, they're only 2 points off Liverpool, and when they come up against Liverpool, if they get 6 points off them in their 2 games, that gives the advantage to City if they don't lose any further games. So as much as, yes, it's great that Liverpool are going so well, but as I say, I always think with City, you can't judge them until the latter part of this season, which is when they tend to come good.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just trying to make
Harry,
myself
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Because a lot of people won't like what I say here. Do you think Tottenham's forward line is better than Arsenal's?
Oh,
no, I wouldn't go that far.
I do. I do this year. I think Saka's an outstanding player in the forward line for Arsenal. But if you said to me, would I take Solanke over Havertz and Trossard playing in that central position? Solanke all day long, every day. And I put that out there because I think Tottenham's forward line is better, apart from one player, which is Saka. I think he's the outstanding one. And Arsenal have to have a bigger forward line than what they've got, as in numbers to choose from.
Absolutely, but I think the thing with Havertz especially, and he's the one...
Well, okay, Martinelli over Son. Who would you take?
Well, at the moment, I'd probably pick Son just about, but Son hasn't had a great start.
No,
To the season.
but even if you go the numbers in previous seasons, he's largely been way higher than Martinelli.
Yeah, fine. Bukayo Saka, though, I think is outstanding.
Yes, I agree on that one. Yeah,
and then I think Kai Havertz is getting a rough ride from people this season. He's already got 8 goals this season, and people seem to forget. I think anyway, looking at it from an Arsenal lens, that a lot of the time this season, where we clearly saw last season that his best work comes when he plays at centre forward in this Arsenal team, and for weeks on end now, he's been playing this kind of hybrid centre forward / central midfield role where he's been dropping into deeper areas, and Trossard's been the more advanced player. And that's been because Arsenal are trying to deal with the injury problems they've got. So I feel like people have forgotten how good Kai Havertz is because he's had to play a different role. And I think when you look at him from maybe January last season onwards to now, he's been outstanding, and he's Arsenal's top scorer by quite a distance again. So I think he's the one that probably doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Yeah,
I do want to talk Newcastle United though as well before we break, because Jose Mourinho seems to be interested in the Newcastle United job. The Guardian have gone with the line unfinished business. Mourinho eyes Howe's position at Newcastle, and it's an exclusive by Matt Hughes and Louise Taylor. I wondered what you guys thought about that, because I was speaking to talkSPORT's very own Ollie Klink yesterday, who's a Newcastle fan, and we had quite different views on how good a job Eddie Howe has done so far. With somebody like Mourinho lurking in the background, would there be a temptation, if it were you guys, to maybe look at that kind of box office manager? Would he be someone that could elevate Newcastle into the positions that they really want to be in? Because he's reminded us in recent weeks with some of his comments after the Manchester United game. And obviously, I don't know if you guys saw it, but he was very, very box office about some referee decisions.
Yes. Look, he's made it very clear that he wants out, let's be honest.
Look, he has been an incredible manager. He's won trophies in different leagues, and he's been a winner in so many different countries. And I get the Mourinho. I want Eddie Howe to have a chance of achieving something at Newcastle, because I think he deserves the right to. Mourinho is obviously touting himself, by the interview you're mentioning, he's touting himself out there for the next big job, which I think is a bit harsh. I think Newcastle fans largely would really want to stay with Eddie because of what he's achieved in the last couple of years of changing the football club and constructing a really good team. You know, Newcastle have got a really good side.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you in that as well. I'm not sure that turning to Jose Mourinho, listen, he's a short-term success man. You know that. He could deliver something, and in that sense, it would be job done if they can deliver a trophy, because it's been so long since Newcastle have won something. But it's a slightly different style of play to Eddie Howe. It's not going to be as exciting, I don't think, and I'm not sure. I don't know. It's whether you want success, which of course most players and most fans want, but I think you're going down a slightly different direction. And also, if he's not happy there, he becomes really unsettled. Does the squad become unsettled? Is it really worthwhile making that risk? I'm not sure it is, because we all think that Eddie Howe is a top-notch manager. It's just things are a bit of a struggle at this present moment in time.
Yeah, Newcastle is a changing club, and there's a lot of younger players coming through. People like Lewis Hall and Livramento. There's some good players there, and there's some really. They keep their team together. There'll be a side that get much closer to the top 4. I think there's unfinished business there for Eddie.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.